Welcome to this week in the world of wrestling.
Welcome to TWitWoW, the best wrestling podcast made for wrestling fans, by wrestling fans, on the web today. I'm John, that's my cohort and commentary Ashton, and this is our Monday Night Raw review. And I gotta say, for me personally, I felt like this Raw was alright. There were two amazing segments that I thoroughly enjoyed, but there was a lot of questionable stuff on this show and some stuff that just made me straight up facepalm. But don't take my word for it, because if you think I'm not being optimistic, wait till you get done hearing what my cohort and commentary has to say. So, Ashton, why don't you tell everybody what you felt about this Raw?
You know how it's kind of starting to become a trend now where every week, whenever I start talking, I kind of give a rating out of 10 that I would give this show?
Yeah.
Do you remember what my rating was last week?
Didn't you say like it was in the 7 or 8 range?
I'm pretty sure that, yeah, last week was like an 8, a 7.5 or an 8. This week, I don't even know if I can give it a 4.
What? See? Yeah, and I knew it was coming, guys. I tried prepping you all for it. Ashton did not care for this show in the least. In fact,
I literally went into a calculator, and this show was 3 hours and 15 minutes long, right?
Right.
And the Heyman segment was, what, 15 minutes maybe?
Yeah, I would say that sounds about right.
Yeah. So 45 hours out of the 300 or 3 hours, and I said 45 hours, didn't I? 45 minutes out of the 3 hours and 15 minutes that this show was, less than a quarter, less than 25% of this show was actually enjoyable to me. Now, this is subjective. This is me talking from my perspective. If there were things in this show that you really enjoyed other than Heyman and the final 2 segments with Bray Wyatt and The Undertaker, and then Orton beat down on Rollins and that kind of stuff, literally the only other thing other than those 3, the only other thing that I genuinely enjoyed on this show was R-Truth on commentary. Like, that's it. This show was barren for me. I was barely even paying attention. I was at the point that I cared so little about this show that I was on my computer playing Clicker Heroes instead.
Wow. Well, guys, let's not waste any more time. Let's get right into our first segment, Heat of the Night. And you know things are going south when I tell you guys I have 2 heats of the night. But, however, I'm just curious, before I go into what even my first one is, Ashton, how many heats of the night did you come into the show with?
Well, I know I have at least 1. 2. I know I have at least 2.
Okay.
And 3, yeah, so I'm going to say 3.
So you have a full roster.
I do.
And we probably share at least 1, if not both. So let me get to my 1
Well,
first.
since you have fewer than I do, let me say my 3, and I'll start with the one that I think is most likely to be shared between us.
Okay.
John Cena, Rusev, we might as well get it out of the way.
Absolutely. I hated this. In fact, if everybody remembers our Raw review from last week,
John's Raw request was literally, do not do what they ended up doing.
Exactly. Because of stuff like this.
See, this is the first time I think that we've ever had a Raw request that directly linked to the following week's Heat of the Night.
That's crazy, isn't it? That's TWitWoW history right there. But yeah, I hated this, guys. I loathed every second of it for a multitude of reasons, not just at the very basic reason of, it makes Rusev look incredibly humane and all this, that, and the other, and weak and all that. How can people like John Cena, how can people not support Rusev after actions like this, where you assault a person to get what you want? I mean, you know, I don't understand it. I don't understand how you can be proud of a patriotism when it produces these kinds of results. But I've been saying that about so many Cena angles, it becomes trite. So I'm not even going to really expound upon that any further. But yeah, just how they got to the matchup. This is the most non-creative way. I mean, hell, I'll put myself out there so everybody can laugh at me publicly. I was telling Ashton, I was so confident. You know, Curtis Axel's got to be a cog in here somewhere. Like, he laid down the gauntlet to Rusev on SmackDown. The match was confirmed for tonight. I'm like, okay, he's going to be a piece in Cena's game, and I can get behind that. He's going to cost Rusev this matchup, and Rusev's going to be so humiliated, he'll want revenge. And honestly, I know people weren't too receptive to that idea. And yes, it is heavily biased on my part, but I sure as hell would have preferred that over how we got to this match anyway. Just ridiculous to me. But
well, John, here's the thing. In the scenario that we got tonight, it made the heel look weak. In your scenario, it made the heel look stupid. So either way, I would not have been happy.
I mean, here's another thing, though. You know that they wouldn't have gone our route of, oh, why don't we have Cena target Lana, because even though WWE already compromises Cena's ethics in ways that, we all extrapolate. I mean, that would just be...
And that's my thing. That's right there, what you just said, Cena's ethics, that's my thing. Because tonight, we had John Cena standing up for the United States of America, and then proceeding to... I'm going to list these in order. Number 1, initiate physical violence because somebody was saying something that he disagreed with.
Yeah.
2, literally torture a man to get what he wants. Literally, because he woke him up and went back to it.
Yeah.
And 3, taunt that man after he got what he wanted. Now, if that doesn't scream American Patriot, I don't know what does.
I was just, you know what? I'm so glad you said it before I did, because I'm getting ready to say that I'm ready to out myself as an asshole here. But it does kind of make sense that Cena's taken up America's mantle with the values he's expressing here and demonstrating. Really crazy. I was really hoping WWE would have a more creative route, because you were even saying, and I love that you said this, because I completely agreed, because Cena, had said, hey, if you say anything bad about America, I'm going to come down there and I'm going to, really beat you down more or less. And Cena had made good on his promise after Rusev cut his promo saying, America has no spine. If it did, it's made of jello and God spits on you and all this stuff. Cena comes out, and you love that Rusev didn't back down.
Yeah.
I just wish it would have mattered. That's my thing. Because I love, too, that Rusev is this heel that loves where he comes from, even though really his native land is Bulgaria, but I guess the nation of his personal choosing, and he defends it, and I can respect that. I respect that he backs up his words, that he's a dominant competitor, and I respect, like Ashton said, that he doesn't back down from anybody. So that's what made it so intriguing. Like, how is a guy like Cena going to get in a match with a guy that really holds all the cards? They even said this on the Raw pre-show. He has the championship. He has a victory over Cena. He has everything right now. And they do it the same way that they got CM Punk to face Alberto Del Rio back, and I believe it was Survivor Series 2011, but the difference is Del Rio was that cowardly heel who wanted to protect his championship. Rusev is a strong guy. He's a legit guy who backs up what he says. You have to do better than this. This, to me, is just lazy writing at its finest.
If the writing wasn't already on the wall that Cena is winning the U.S. title at WrestleMania, it is now.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. That's why I almost wouldn't have minded, again, Rusev losing his streak beforehand. This way he would have made it about the belt, and at least would have felt like there was more ambiguity of who was going to come out on top. To me, it's a foregone conclusion. And I'm not even going to give WWE the benefit of the doubt of, oh, maybe that's what they want us to think. No, it's happening.
No, it's not.
And if anybody really is thinking that, I'm telling you in all sincerity and niceness, you're overthinking.
You're giving them way too much credit, is what it is.
Yeah, you're giving them way too much credit.
It's not even a matter of somebody being foolish for overthinking it or for outthinking themselves. They're literally just giving WWE's creative team too much credit.
Right. So I've said all I really want to on this scenario, because there's only so many ways you can call something stupid. So what's your second heat of the night?
My second heat of the night is the architect of the Shield, the guy who was supposed to be the smart one in the Shield, the man behind, the mastermind, I should say, behind bringing the Authority back. Oh, and that's another thing. How exactly is John Cena torturing Rusev into giving him a U.S. title shot different than Seth Rollins threatening to break Edge's neck to bring the Authority back?
Yeah.
But as I was saying, the smart guy, the mastermind, the architect looked like the world's biggest moron tonight.
And we have both of my heats of the night shared, because I hated this.
Yeah.
I tried to, play ball, and I think you know that. When we would talk about Orton's whole approach to this thing, I said, oh, Ashton, come on. I can appreciate a good long con. Here's the thing, though. Orton himself forsaked that con in the opening segment. He tells Rollins to his face, now I'm not going to go verbatim, but more or less tells him, I am going to beat the crap out of you.
Yeah.
I'm going to get you alone, and I am going to own you. In fact, I will quote Orton here. He said, I'm going to make you my bitch. And you could see Seth selling it, and you'd think the smart thing to do would be, oh, he made a threat. We can't take the chance. Authority. Gang up on him. Of course not. Because then Orton starts laughing. He's like, oh, come on, guys. I'm just joshing you. I'm just kidding around. Come on. And then Seth starts laughing, too, like an idiot. And it pains me to say this, because I think you guys know by now from live reactions and every time I talk about Rollins, I'm a huge fan of the dude. I cannot wait for his world title run if it happens. You know, always got to leave that possibility open. But this was just stupid. How can you have somebody tell you that to your face and not even act on it? Honestly, Ashton, like, I know you kind of presume that I enjoyed the beatdown segment at the end. I didn't. I thought, well, you know, Rollins deserves this. He had it coming. You know, when somebody tells you what they're going to do to your face.
I think, here's my thing, John. I think I enjoyed it out of principle more than I actually enjoyed the segment. I enjoyed what it stood for because it finally means we can get over this whole Randy Orton pretending to be a member of the Authority crap, and he can get back to kicking ass and taking names.
And that's true. I've got to look at the long-term benefit, right? But even then, you know, it's just, it left a bad taste in my mouth.
Can I just say something, though?
Sure.
I wish Orton would have also stepped to Reigns, because nothing could possibly make me happier than Randy Orton getting inserted into the main event of WrestleMania to make it a triple threat.
And you know what, dude? This is where I'm going to come off so salty, and, you know, it's not going to make me better than I'm sure some of the Daniel Bryan fans and everybody else that I've been saying, you know, kind of take it easy, because I'm looking at Randy Orton just unrelenting against Seth Rollins and just beating the crap out of him. And I'm like, man, how great would that Randy Orton be against Brock Lesnar? And that's really all I was thinking about. Like, it's a shame because I'm such a fan of both guys, and yet the sheer stupidity and the laziness of how we got here, which I really should have jumped on from the beginning, and that's my fault because Orton shouldn't have played the long con at all, only if he was going to forsook it, which thank you, Ashton, for that correction.
If he was going to forsake it?
Yeah, you know?
Yeah.
Just the whole thing is just horrible, and I really should have seen this coming. Just like I'm criticizing Seth Rollins for seeing what he had coming. But yeah, I don't care about it anymore. I really don't care about it anymore. It's just, it is what it is. Let's just have the match. Whether Rollins or Orton goes over, I really don't care. So let's just do it and get it over with.
Yeah. That PG, though. We never saw the middle fingers. But anyway, my third heat of the night.
Yeah.
The Intercontinental thing, the Intercontinental Championship thing, everything about it.
What? I've been loving that.
Just hang on a second. Just hang on a second. Let me explain myself. It's not just that. I'm not done. Also, the tag title thing. Everything about that. Both of these titles have one thing in common.
A crowded class of contenders. They're just everybody getting thrown in.
A crowded class of contenders entirely made up of losers.
Okay, here's my thing.
The only exception in either division, I guess you could say, is Daniel Bryan. And he lost to Roman Reigns.
Right.
So everybody in the IC title picture and the tag team title picture, every one of them is basically, in the eyes of your mainstream casual fan, they're all losers. They all lose very, very often. Too often. Especially Barrett, who is the freaking champion. And now tonight, Cesaro and Kidd, who are the freaking champions. It's ridiculous. Like, who are you supposed to be cheering for? I mean, I get that people are going to be cheering for Bryan in the IC title picture, and that makes sense. What tag team am I supposed to be cheering for? Am I supposed to be cheering for the Usos? They just got their asses whipped tonight by the freaking Matadors. Are you kidding me? Are we supposed to be cheering for the Matadors? Are we supposed to be cheering for the New Day? You're kidding, right? There's literally nobody, Daniel Bryan being the only exception. There's literally nobody in either title picture that the WWE has booked in a way that makes me want to cheer for them.
And that is a problem. You know, for me, I guess I'm a bit more complacent about it because I'm so used to WWE setting up contenders this way It's not like NXT where you can actually get invested in the parties, like in the form of a tournament. Like maybe you see a team or two in a tournament and you're like, oh, I hope they make it to the finals and I hope they take the whole thing. WWE just throws everybody together, mainly by either having certain contenders beat the champion in a
or by
non-title
having
match.
other contenders beat the number one contender.
Exactly. And that's how they build their class. It's an outdated model to me. It's one, again, and I hate to keep using this word, but I think it's the one that, best fits, the laziness of it.
Yeah.
Because what would it have been? See, now the IC title picture I can forgive because it's in a ladder match, and I think this is kind of their answer to Money in the Bank or whatever that used to be at WrestleMania. Maybe they just wanted to get back to that kind of thing. So I can honestly forgive that. The tag titles, though, what business do the Matadors have in a tag team title match? Now,
I'll tell you what business they have, John. They beat the Usos, and the Usos were the number one contenders.
Exactly, but you see, like, they have been so irrelevant for so long that them potentially teasing a heel turn because they injured El Torito and didn't care because they got the win and they got a little bit of the Usos tights there, so I'm thinking maybe they'll go heel. But again, I just end up not caring because they've been irrelevant for so long. Now, if they did a tag team title tournament with the winners facing the champions at WrestleMania, I could get into that, even if it was just this entire division, PTP, Ascension, everybody in this tournament. I could at least get invested in that and hope that the Ascension or whoever, would win and go on to face Cesaro and Kid. And at least it would be more of a creative route and create interesting television for the division. But no, let's just throw everybody in there. And what's probably going to be the exact same match that they had last year at Mania, where all the teams are starting the match at the same time, or a tag team turmoil. Regardless, we have no really viable contenders except maybe LOL Usos win. But again, as Ashton noted, they lost to the Matadors tonight.
Exactly. So, yeah. And
crap.
To me, like, that's such a huge problem because it's everybody but the very tippy top guys.
Right.
Like Cena, Triple H, Sting, Taker, Brock. And the hilarious thing is everyone that I just listed, save for Cena, is a part-timer.
Right.
And maybe every now and then when they really decide that they want to get behind him, you could put Orton in that category. And again, it's kind of a conditional thing where they have to really decide to get behind him. You could probably put Sheamus in that category too. But everybody else is portrayed at some point or another as a loser. And how can the WWE expect people to want to buy merchandise representing these people when they're losers? How can WWE expect people to basically want to pay to see or represent losers?
I don't know. But, I've said the same thing in the past, though. I've said on past episodes that people love a winner. And, I mean, it goes back to our earliest episodes. What was my basic philosophy? You are what you're booked. Except the problem is, when you are what you're booked and you get inserted into title matches, like, look, I've been loving what R-Truth is doing, and I think he's one of those guys that proves that if you give him a platform that's substantial and goes more for 2 minutes or whatever, he can really make it work and do great stuff. Like, I still have it in my head, him tap dancing while doing the yes chant, like, out the arena, which I thought was gold, and I hope somebody gif that because I'll kiss the ground they walk on. But even him, he hasn't had any physical interaction with any of these guys. He's been kind of the comedic foil.
He's still the most entertaining thing about it, though.
I mean, that is the terrifying part, right, is that he's legitimately entertaining. But, I mean, let's call it what it is, Ashton, to go back to your point of losers and whatnot. He only beat Bad News Barrett one time on an episode of SmackDown. That's all he's done here. He hasn't had any matches with Ziggler, Harper. Like, I was hoping that he would have matches, too, to kind of promote this. But he has been, again, that comedic foil. Now, that's fine. But, I mean, nobody really believes that he's going to become the Intercontinental Champion at WrestleMania.
Right.
And I'm not saying that anybody should, but you should at least create that doubt or make some effort to create that doubt.
I think that the thing that gave him credibility more than anything other than obviously beating Barrett was the little trick that he pulled on SmackDown on Luke Harper where he set the title aside and then kicked him in the face.
Yeah. I mean, I just feel like...
But again, though, that makes Luke Harper look like a complete freaking moron, and why would anyone want to cheer for that?
why is everybody looking stupid lately? I don't understand that. Like, it's
Because they assume that people that watch their product can relate to being stupid.
I guess. I mean, what other reason really is there? But you know what? I'm going to start repeating myself and going around in circles with this whole thing, so I think I've really concluded what I have to say here. Is there anything else you want to say in this segment before we move on to our formal review?
Well, I just wanted to kind of ask if you were kind of on the same page as me now that I kind of explained my side a little bit.
I mean,
because when I first said something about the Intercontinental title picture, you were all about it, and you were like, oh, but it's, what are you talking about? It's so good. And then I kind of explained myself, and I'm just curious as if I've swayed you at all, or if you still think that it's great.
I'm still thoroughly enjoying it, and I still think it's great, but I can be sympathetic to your viewpoint.
I think that the biggest problem I have is that everyone is optimistic, and that's why they're enjoying it, because they're optimistic that maybe, finally, after WrestleMania, they'll take the Intercontinental Championship seriously. But do you really think that that's going to happen? Do you really think that even if Bryan wins it, he's going to be treated better than Barrett was, or better than who was even champion before Barrett got it? Was it Ziggler?
It was Ziggler.
Yeah. Well, do you really think that they're going to treat whoever wins it at WrestleMania better than either one of those guys? Because I don't. I think that it's misplaced optimism, and people are only enjoying this entire storyline because of that, because they see the names. They see that it involves Bryan and Ambrose and Harper and Barrett and Ziggler, and they're like, oh my God, this angle is so amazing. They're finally making the Intercontinental Championship legitimate again. And then after WrestleMania, it's going to go back to the same place that it was, with the freaking champion losing every other week and then barely scraping by with a win in the championship match.
I think the only way that Intercontinental Championship is going to be in any kind of way is if Bryan wins it. That's the only way my optimism would be sustained.
And even then, the only difference is that the Intercontinental Champion would finally be over for once.
Maybe, but I also think Bryan's the type of character that with his fanfare, it would just be commanded that he still be involved in angles and stuff, and inevitably it would have to involve the championship, you have to imagine. So I just feel like he would be the best bet. Now, that's not to be conflated, for the record, that I want Bryan to win that ladder match at Mania. I'm still personally pulling for Dean Ambrose after his Fastlane fallout.
And I am pulling for Bryan because I want our title picture after WrestleMania to be completely upside down. I don't think you guys realize I'm in a place now where I'm literally rooting for the WWE to do the dumbest crap possible, because hopefully then the ratings and the buy rates will reflect it, and they'll be forced to change.
Now, I think that's being too optimistic. But regardless...
Really? You think that the ratings and WrestleMania buy rate being low wouldn't change the WWE at all?
I don't think so, not when you
ratings are already dangerously low for WrestleMania season. WrestleMania is competing with the freaking season finale of The Walking Dead. I mean, and a UFC show, I think.
Here's the thing, dude. I'm not arguing with the effects that all of that may have. But when you come to me in a conversation and you told me that Vince McMahon once said, I would rather have an arena half full cheering for the guys that I won over than a full arena cheering for whoever they want. I mean, I don't think they've changed the course.
Yeah, that's true. That is true.
Yeah, I just think you're being too optimistic in that regard. But, I mean, optimism may be the only thing we have in any venue, because here's the thing, guys. Here's what it comes down to.
This is why I love Wednesdays, damn it.
Well, yeah, first of all, Wednesdays are the best night of the week ever now for any wrestling fan. And two, if I could really just be candid, I'm really not excited for the road to WrestleMania. And I feel like this whole heat of the night discussion has kind of encompassed that. You know, it sucks. Like, I want to be amped up. I want to be like, oh man, Ashton, we're like 20 days away. I'm not. I honestly couldn't care less. I'm already
It doesn't feel like WrestleMania. It just feels like another pay-per-view.
It doesn't. I'm already looking to Extreme Rules and who's the world champion going to be and what's Rollins going to do. I'm already looking to the next pay-per-view. And when you're talking about WrestleMania, I don't think anything more needs to be said when you said you're looking past it. So with that said, do you have anything else you want to say?
Nope.